Hello my wonderful friends, welcome to my channel. I have a collection of stories for you today that I hope you will enjoy. Our first post is from C. Mel. Am I the a-hole for evicting my deceased brother's fiancé? My brother passed away recently and he had a live-in partner / fiancé. Both of my parents have passed and so did my sister. So that leaves me being his next of kin. The house my brother lived in was my grandparents' house. He purchased it in 2021 after they passed away. We grew up in that house, and I have a massive connection to that home. It's the only thing I have left of my family. I'm the only one left. Since I'm the next of kin, I inherited the house. I offered his partner, let's say his name is Steve, that he could continue to live there if he paid the mortgage and the property taxes, similar to renting. Steve said he couldn't afford it and asked for me to sell instead. He requested information on the kind of profits he would be receiving / inheriting from the house. I told him even if he wasn't living there, I inherited the house. I won't be selling and he won't be inheriting any money from it. He demanded that I sell and that he would take me to court over inheritance. I pleaded to his sensibilities. This was my family home. He was my only connection to my brother left, and he refused. So I offered to pay for an apartment for him for a year, since I'm also my brother's named life insurance beneficiary. Steve demanded everything, including the life insurance, despite my telling him I'm named. I told him he wasn't getting anything, and needed to leave my family house after he threatened to take me to court a second time. He refused, so I filed for eviction. Am I the a-hole? I was also told to add to my post. Steve and my brother were together for 6 years, engaged for 2 prior to his death. My brother and I had talked a few months before his death about how sure they were engaged, but he was probably never going to get married. Not sure if this was due to the new administration and concerns around how the same-sex marriage law may change, or if their relationship was rocky. 1 year prior to my brother's death, he got a new job and named me as his life insurance beneficiary after they were already engaged. Common law doesn't exist in my state, and Steve never paid into the house at all. My brother paid all of their bills. I paid the mortgage on my family home for the last year, and just recently talked to Steve after the estate went through probate. I can't afford to pay both mortgages regularly. Not the a-hole. Steve didn't pay into the home. Your brother knew what he was doing. Either way, it was your brother's decision not to leave Steve anything. You have kindly offered to help, but Steve is being entitled. Legally and morally, you are in the clear. I would give Steve 2 out of 5 on the entitlement scale. Our next story is from Throwaway Daughter Eat. Am I the a-hole for grounding my daughter for calling her stepmother fat? Warning, mentions of a past ED. Hi everyone, long-term lurker, first time posting. Posting on a throwaway because my sister knows my main, I, 45M, had a daughter, 16F, with my late wife who died when my daughter was 10. I married my new wife, 42F, when my daughter was 12, and she has 2 boys, 12M and 10M, who she had with her ex-husband and who is not in the picture. Despite my wife's attempts, my daughter, who I'll call Nina for the sake of the story, has never been welcoming me to my wife and refuses to call her mum. Now that's her choice, but she also refuses to spend any one-on-one time with my wife and made it clear that she doesn't view her as a mother figure. This has caused tension in my house, and her brothers are confused why my daughter doesn't call her mum when they call me dad. The tension finally exploded due to comments Nina made yesterday. Nina does a lot of sports, softball, track and javelin. Because of this she eats a lot. Not a freakish amount, but more than the average 16-year-old girl eats. She's not overweight and she's perfectly healthy. My wife had a past binge eating disorder. She weighed 250 pounds at my daughter's age, and she still goes to therapy over it. Apparently she's noticed some of the symptoms in my daughter, so if Nina is eating, she'll make slight comments like, maybe you should take a break, or that's a lot. Nothing too harsh, but my daughter has had an issue with it. She's told my wife to stop, but she's not doing anything out of malice, so I didn't put a stop to it. On Saturday we had dinner to celebrate my daughter coming first in some event she took part in on Friday. Nina went for a second slice of pie, and my wife made a comment like, "That too much, dear." And my daughter just snapped, not in a loud way, but she looked over at my wife's plate and said something like, "That lasagna has a lot of cheese in it. You don't want to get fat, dear. And maybe you should go on a run to burn off all that fat you're consuming." My wife went really quiet, and my daughter kept making comments throughout the evening. When we got home, my wife was crying, and I yelled at my daughter for what she said. Nina doesn't know about my wife's history, but I still scolded her because my wife never tried to offend her, but my daughter clearly wanted to. I sent her to her room and grounded her, but a few minutes later my sister showed up, and Nina walked down with a few bags packed and left despite my protests. The family group chat is blowing up with people calling me an asshole for not standing up for Nina. Only a few people are on my side, but my wife still hasn't left our room, and Nina has been at my sister's house since yesterday. I just want my family to go back to normal, so am I the a-hole? There is an edit, but before I read it, yes, you are a major a-hole. As someone who has been through EDs, your wife is also a major idiot for projecting her insecurities onto your kid. You are so in the wrong. I would give you 2 out of 5 a-hole score for being an idiot, and your wife 3 out of 5. Edit. Okay, I have accepted that I am the a-hole. I'll talk to my wife when she's calmed down and apologize to my daughter when I go to my sister's house to pick her up. Thank you for all comments, even if most have been harsh. Okay, thankfully OP has realized he is in the wrong. The harsh comments were needed to make him see sense. Our last post is from Blacksmith Think. Am I the a-hole for ruining a wedding? My wife and I own a catering company. Our oldest son is 15 and helps a lot with events. He's autistic, but he's very capable when he's accommodated. We were contracted to cater a rehearsal dinner and a wedding. The rehearsal dinner was obviously much smaller than the wedding. With me, my wife, and our oldest, we could pull the whole thing off without using any employees and save a chunk of change. The wedding planner also hired a bartender to make drinks, as we don't offer that service. Our son was setting up the tables and chairs while my wife and I were unloading the food. The bartender asked my son to help him unload some boxes of wine, and my son said no. The bartender offered to tip him, and my son said that he can't touch alcohol. The bartender told him he was being difficult, and my son started ignoring him, because that's how he responds to stress. The bartender tried to talk to him, and when my son continued to ignore him, he grabbed my son by the shoulder and shook him. My son ran to me and told me what happened. I called the police. The bartender started arguing with me. I kept telling him to wait for the police to arrive. My son went to my wife. When the bartender found out my son was 15, he got nervous and left before the police arrived. After the deputy showed up, and while I was talking to him, the wedding planner showed up to ask what was going on. I asked her to wait while I finished talking to the deputy. My wife and son had gone back to setting up after the bartender left. The wedding planner demanded I talk to her and tell her why the police were present. The deputy told her she had to wait. She stood by and listened to our conversation. I told the deputy what happened. He said since he didn't witness anything, he couldn't do anything, but to call him if the bartender returned. When the deputy left, the wedding planner called the bartender to ask him to come back. He said he wouldn't come back because he was worried I'd call the cops again. Ultimately, the rehearsal dinner had great food but no alcohol. The wedding planner asked us to serve at least the wine and beer the bartender had brought, but we refused because A, we don't offer that service, B, we aren't licensed to do that, and C, that stuff didn't belong to us. After the dinner, the wedding planner went off on us. She said we ruined the event and that we were fired. I clarified with her that she didn't want us to show up to the wedding venue and cater the wedding, which was the next day. She said she didn't. I said okay. We left. My son actually filmed our conversation. and I watched it when we got home, and she was very clear. At 4 a.m. she called us to talk about the wedding. I reminded her she fired us. She said we were already paid, so we had to show up anyway. I said she fired us. She said if we didn't show up, she would sue. I told her to sue. I also told her I had her on video firing us. We did not cater the wedding. I heard from the DJ that they ended up ordering pizza. The bride was apparently screamed at the wedding planner for half an hour about it. I actually feel a little bad because the bride didn't do anything. Maybe I was being petty and should have showed up anyway. We did not return any money, as per our contract, and we ate or donated the food that had already been prepared. I know legally I did nothing wrong, but I feel like a bit of a butthole. Down in the comments, people are saying OP should send the video to the bride and groom so they can at least get some money back from the wedding planner. I agree, that planner needs to pay back some of what she received for ruining someone's wedding. As the comments have pointed out, it's much easier to replace a bartender than the caterer, not the a-hole. I will give the bartender 2 out of 5 because he didn't know the kid was 15, and the wedding planner 4 out of 5. Ruining someone's big day like that is a real a-hole move. I know I would be devastated if that had been my big day. Thanks for listening, and please like and subscribe. Have a wonderful rest of your day.